Do you think diaphragm is an important part of human body? Do you think it's important to know the anatomy of such a structure? Well, the answer to both the questions is yes and the yes. The reason being very simple. Diaphragm is the primary muscle of inspiration and hence the primary muscle of entire respiratory system, because expiration is itself a passive movement. But we'll talk about this in the further videos. Today we are going to focus on the anatomy of diaphragm. So hi guys, my name is Priya. I'm a sports physio from India. In today's topic we'll be discussing in detail the structure of diaphragm and the structures which pass through the diaphragm. So if you like this video, do not forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Now without further ado, let's get into this video. So as I told you, we'll be talking about the structure of diaphragm. Now, where is the diaphragm exactly placed? If you see the placement of diaphragm, it is placed at the end of the thoracic cavity and just above your abdominal cavity. So it can be said that the diaphragm diverts or divides your thoracic cavity from your abdominal cavity. Okay, now as you can see, here is the bigger picture of it. It is in a U-shaped structure. It is a flap straight structure with two domes, right dome and left dome. Okay, this is a musculotendinous structure. I repeat again, it's a musculotendinous structure. This part is your muscular part and here in the center is your central tendon. So if you want to define the diaphragm, it can be defined as the musculotendinous structures which divides the thoracic cavity from the abdominal cavity is known as your thoraco-abdominal diaphragm. Remember one thing, there are two diaphragms in the body. One is a thoraco-abdominal diaphragm and the other is a pelvic diaphragm. So this is the thoraco-abdominal diaphragm. Now that we are done with the location of diaphragm, what we are going to talk about is what are the attachments of the diaphragm. The attachments of the diaphragm can be divided into peripheral and central. If you see the diagram here, these all attachments which are coming on the right and the left side, in the center and in the posterior aspect over here somewhere, these will be concerned as the peripheral attachments. So what can be the peripheral attachments? It will be vertebrae, ribs and xiphoid process. See here in the diagram. If you see here is your xiphoid sternum. Okay, this is your xiphoid sternum. The diaphragm is definitely attached over here. It's not just lying around, it has to be attached. So here it's lying attached to here. It is also attached to the lower 6 ribs, that is from 7 to 12. Now the attachment with the ribs varies a little. For 7 to 10th rib, it is attached to the costal cartilage, whereas in 11th and 12th rib, there is a direct attachment. The reason behind this is very simple, that 11th and 12th rib, they do not have costal cartilage. They are floating ribs. Hence, there is a direct attachment. With the 7 to 10th rib, the costal cartilage is present and hence the diaphragm attaches to it. And in the anterior aspect, here is your xiphoid sternum. When there is a xiphoid sternum, the posteriorly there will also be your vertebrae, which you can see over here, your lumbar vertebrae, and your diaphragm is attached to them as well. Mainly it is attached to your L1 to L3 vertebrae with the intervertebral disc, and these structures which are coming from there, they are called crus, right crus and left crus of the diaphragm. Now if we talk about the central attachment, the central attachment is with the pericardium. The reason being, when you see the central attachment, you will see that it has a fibrous attachment to the outer layer of the pericardium. If you see over here, here is the central attachment. This white area of the diaphragm that you see, that is the central tendon, and your heart sits somewhere here behind the sternum. So obviously there is going to be some kind of attachment over there present as well. So the tendon, the central tendon, has a fibrous attachment which is with the outer layer of the pericardium. So these will be your attachments. Now that we have talked about the attachments, I want to talk something about the resting position. This is a diagram of a resting position of a diaphragm. So as you can see, the right dome is above your left dome. I've told this before in my videos. Whenever you're looking at the person standing in front of you, your left is the right and your right is the left. So this here is the right dome, this is the left dome. The right dome sits a little higher than the left dome. The reason being that the liver is sitting just beneath your diaphragm, and that requires space, and that is why your right dome is higher. Now we are going to talk about one of the most important things to remember and one of the most difficult things to remember about the anatomy of diaphragm. That is the openings or the structures which pass through the diaphragm. Now there are mainly three openings: aortic opening, esophageal opening and vena cava opening. AOV: aortic opening, esophageal opening and vena cava opening. Now though these are in ascending order, aortic or esophageal and vena cava, in ascending alphabetical order, the levels at which this opening lies are in the descending order. That means aortic opening lies at the lowest level, that is T12. Esophageal opening lies at the middle level, that is T10, and vena cava opening is at T8. Okay, if you see the diaphragm over here, this is from the posterior aspect. Okay, so this is your right dome, this is your left dome. This is caval hiatus, that is vena cava hiatus or vena cava opening, which will be at T8 level. This is your esophagus, so this is this aperture over here, this is your esophageal opening, which is at T10 level, and this here is your aortic hiatus or your aortic opening, and this is at the T12 level. Okay, so that is why you need to remember that your openings in your ascending alphabetic order is aortic, esophageal and caval or vena cava, but these openings are in the descending order in comparison to the levels at which they lie. That is, aortic is at T12, esophageal is at T10 and vena cava or caval is at T8. So the three openings which are present in the diaphragm mainly are your aortic opening, esophageal opening and vena cava opening. These openings are in the ascending order alphabetically, but in the descending order of which the level with which they lie. That is, aortic is at T12, your esophageal is at T10 and your vena cava opening is at T8. Okay, so now that we have talked about different types of opening or the three main openings in the diaphragm, we are going to talk about what contains or what contents pass through these openings and how to remember them. Alright, so let's get to that. The first opening that we'll be talking about is the aortic opening, which is at the T12 level. So aortic opening can be remembered the contents as ATA. So since it's aortic, obviously the aorta has to pass thoracic duct and azygous vein. Okay, ATA, aorta, thoracic duct and azygous vein. These are the three main components which pass through your aortic opening. The second opening will be the esophageal opening, which lies in the middle on both the levels, that is level wise, or you go for alphabetical order. In both it lies in the middle at the T10 level. So esophageal opening, the mnemonic to remember the structures is GUG. Like we say good, but instead of the ND it is G. G-O-O-G, that is GUG. Usually it is good, but GUG, easy to remember. Now first G will stand for your gastric or vagus nerve, gastric vagus nerve. Okay, gastral vagus nerve. O, definitely esophagus has to pass through it, so it will be esophagus. And the other O will be your esophageal veins. Because esophagus is passing, the veins have to pass, esophagus veins. And G is for your esophageal branch of the gastric artery. Okay, so the opening has four contents, which the first G stands for gastric part of the vagus nerve. O is for the esophagus, obviously. The second O is for the esophageal veins, because the esophagus is passing, some of the veins have to pass as well. and G is again for the esophageal branch of the left gastric artery. If you do not want to remember GUG, you can also remember G and triple O. Gastric nerves, esophageal branch of left gastric nerve, and esophageal veins. Depends on you. But I prefer to remember it as GUG. Now, the third and the most important, or the third important part of the opening will be your vena cava opening. Relax. Now, the third opening that we'll be talking about is the vena cava opening. Here, the mnemonic to remember is very simple: VP, like Vice President, VP. Vena cava, so definitely the inferior vena cava has to pass, and branches of the phrenic nerve, right phrenic nerve more importantly, but phrenic nerve. So P, VP, inferior vena cava and branches of the right phrenic nerve. Now that we have discussed about the structures which pass through the diaphragm, the only thing remaining to discuss is the innervation. The diaphragm is innervated by the phrenic nerve. It is a mixed nerve, that is, it has motor as well as sensory components, and it comes from the cervical plexus or the cervical roots C3 to C5. Okay, so the diaphragm is innervated by a mixed nerve called phrenic nerve. The phrenic nerve motor component has only for the diaphragm. Now, why is this important? Why do you need to know this? The reason for this is because if anyone has a cervical cord injury, that is, if anyone has a cervical injury in the neck region, if it is above the level of C3, then there are chances that the patient will not be able to breathe properly, or may need assistance in breathing, or may not breathe at all because of the losing the innervation to the diaphragm, depending at which level the injury is. So in such cases, you need to assist the patient in breathing, maybe through forced diaphragmatic breathing, or they may be put on ventilators. So that is why knowing the diaphragm and how you can assist a patient in having a diaphragmatic breathing is important. So that is why knowing the innervation and the level at which the injury has occurred is also very much important to you. Now, do you remember a very simple stuff which is funny when it occurs to someone else but very annoying when it occurs to you? It is the hiccup. Why do hiccups occur? The reason the hiccups occur is usually the diaphragm will settle down when you're breathing in. But if something is irritating the phrenic nerve, or if something is irritating the diaphragm, it can spasm, which can cause the air to rush into your voice box and causing the hic sound. So that is what happens. Now, what can cause the hiccups? Several things actually. It can either be eating too much too quickly, it can be because of stress, it can be because of drinking too much carbonated fluids, or having acidity, or having gas troubles, which is causing the diaphragm to stay in its position and not allowing it to come down for normal inspiration. In all such cases, the hiccups will usually be temporary, but sometimes the hiccups can last longer, that is more than 48 hours, and sometimes for even months. In such cases, whenever your hiccups last for more than 48 hours, remember to see your therapist or see your physician. The reason being, sometimes hiccups can be the only symptom coming from your central nervous system where there is any issue, namely meningitis and several others. So if your hiccups last for more than 48 hours, remember to go and talk to your doctor. If not, someone is having a hiccup, give them a glass of water and they should be fine. Alright, so that's all for this video. If you like this video, do not forget to smash that like button and leave your comments in the comment section. I'll go through them and try to, if you have any suggestions, leave them below as well. I'll try and make as many videos as possible. Alright, so without further ado, I'll take your leave now and see you guys next time. Bye.